The most dangerous countries in Africa are those with a proven history of being particularly unsafe for visitors. While it may still be possible to visit these countries, one must ensure to make additional provisions for security throughout the duration of the visit. These countries are too volatile, and indiscriminate violence can erupt at any time, thus putting one's life and property at risk. So without further ado, here are the top 10 most dangerous countries in Africa 2023. 10. Nigeria. Nigeria is a country located in West Africa, probably the most popular in the region. The country has a complex and faulty social structure. It suffered a spate of militancy in the oil-rich south for roughly a decade, then suffered episodes of terrorism from the infamous Boko Haram, and kidnapping for ransom as the order of the day in many states across Nigeria. The country has undergone a deadly insurgency which has left several thousands to flee their homes. Nigeria is in a very dicey situation. While the south hardly notices the insurgency, the north has been burning for years. The south, however, has noticed the extrajudicial killings as well as other forms of abuse and human rights violations been carried out by the government and the state police. 9. Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is another country located in West Africa. Its problems are many and dynamic. Burkina Faso has borders with Niger and Chad, both of which are currently undergoing some serious internal problems of their own. Some of the problems hampering over Burkina Faso include terrorism, lack of security at border towns, and the famous use of the country as a cache for drug cartels. Burkina Faso also has the problem of violent crimes, kidnappings, murder, and so on. Burkina Faso's problems seem to stem from corruption and a lack of competent government. It seems that even the country's security forces are working with criminals. Anyone who travels to this country against the general advice has to know that there is probably nothing that can help him if things go wrong. So better avoid the country at all cost. 8. Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a country located in East Africa, and is one of the countries in Africa with the most potential for development. However, that potential for growth has been hampered by several factors. To start with, Ethiopia was involved in a long and bloody conflict with its neighbors Eritrea. Having expended so much resources on civil war, the government understandably has much limited resources to bolster its security. The country is very much at risk to the shocks of the weather and climate, and so, this causes many people to be hungry and desperate. Many of these desperate people are now criminals and have weapons that they use to forcefully steal and extract the things they need from other people. Acts of violence including robbery and kidnappings are quite frequent in this country. 7. Mali. Mali is a country located in West Africa. It is a French-speaking country, but one that is not necessarily good at cooperating with its neighbors. Mali has a recurring problem of military coups, and sometimes the cause is the utter lack of direction of the civilian governments. The Malian military recently took over control of the country again, but this time, the coup was bloodless. This has not stopped the country from swinging sideways in terms of social structure. The social situation in the country is terrible, with acts of violence occurring almost throughout the country. Terrorism and kidnappings are also quite popular, and it appears that the authorities lack the capacity to do something about it. 6. Libya. Libya is a country in North Africa that went to flames as a civil war broke out in the country back in 2011. This country was once the pride of Africa, and one of the most prosperous countries on the continent. Years after the civil war died down, the country is yet to make a full social recovery. Presently, there is a kind of feudal system in place in Libya. That is, different powers claim control over different areas. The country is quite unsafe and the lives of civilians is always at risk. Kidnapping for ransoms is the most popular business activity in the country. Some militant groups can specifically target Westerners for higher ransom payments, while others may simply detain travelers as a show of control. 5. Sudan. After years of war in which issues pertaining to genocide were raised, and then followed by a brief stint of quiet, Sudan has once again gone up in flames. Civil war has broken out right on the streets of Khartoum, with bodies piling up, and properties going up in flames. Even before the outbreak of violence, the US has already warned citizens not to travel to this country, and now, it appears that the warning was prophetic. In fact, scenes of the fighting are all over the news and social media to see for yourself. 4. The Central African Republic. The Central African Republic, also known as CAR, is a country in Central Africa. This country suffers from great ethnic tensions which boiled over into bloodshed. The Central African Republic was recently in the news due to the ethnic clashes that occurred in the country. Such a combustible society is just not ideal to visit, even without factoring in other forms of violence that took place on a regular basis, such as robbery, kidnappings, and other forms of violence. The USA has even warned its citizens that it is limited to what it can do to help them if they get caught in a web of violence. As such, the best thing is to stay away from this country, at least for now. 3. Somalia. Somalia is lawless. Traveling to that country presently, for the purpose of work or investment, is utter madness. Unless you work for the CIA. The problem is that the country was at war for too long, and as a result it lost most of its infrastructure as well as its social structure. Too many people have arms training and yet no jobs. And as a result there are too many people willing to shed blood in order to make a living. Presently, terrorist acts are a major problem, and that is closely followed by violent crime. Piracy has been a scourge destroying the image of the country for years, and there is no political will to stop it. Not only is Somalia a terrible place to visit, it is also one of the worst places to live because there is a lack of healthcare facilities, and even when such can be quickly constructed, it is difficult to ensure the safety of the people working there. 2. DR Congo. Democratic Republic of the Congo is a country in Central Africa which has been described as one of the worst places to live in Africa. The situation is desperate. Over 95 million people live in this country and they are mostly poor. There is a high level of malnutrition, and nearly half of the population need food aid. With such helpless conditions, it's no surprise that many of the young people in the country have turned to crime. Violence and homicide are particularly popular in the country. Aside from these, there are also issues of human rights abuses carried out by the same authorities that are supposed to secure the people. Chief among the crimes in this country are abductions, rape, torture, and intimidation. There are also armed factions struggling for power within the country. Civilians can be caught in the crossfire, and written off as collateral damage. South Sudan. South Sudan is the #1 country to avoid for citizens of Western countries and most African travelers. The country is a big social mess in which nobody can feel entirely safe. If locals cannot feel safe, then the feelings of uneasiness should be multiplied by several digits. The problems in this country are beyond feelings of unease. There is a sore lack of infrastructure in this new country which is yet licking its wounds after the long and bloody war that led to its independence. There is a terrifying rate of violent crime in which gangs of armed men, sometimes former soldiers, can sack entire neighborhoods, taking everything of value. The country also has very poor relations with its neighbors, meaning it is not easy to rally security agencies from those countries so as to come to your aid if things go wrong. All in all, South Sudan is a country to avoid at all cost. So, there you have it, viewers. The top 10 most dangerous countries in Africa. Make sure to press the like button, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you don't miss any of our future uploads. Thanks for watching this one, catch you all in the next.